making a snowman. Something just to be a little bit Christmassy and have a bit of fun and draw some stuff together with. So, starting off, snowmen are made up of massive snowballs, so we know we are going to want at least 2 spheres. You may want to have 3 spheres, depending on the size that you want your snowman. So, there's 1 sphere, and we'll have one that's slightly smaller, and the one that's slightly smaller again. So, let's just pick up our first sphere, put the move on, and we're just going to lift it up so that it's not sitting underneath our grid. And you'll see why I'm going to do that in a minute. There's one. Let's get our next snowball up, and we'll just bring it over and stack it on top of the first one. Move this down a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. And our final snowball, grab that and move it across. Okay, that one's maybe a little bit small for the head there. And I'm just going to have a quick look. These aren't lined up very well, I can see on here. So I'm just going to go, that was what I was supposed to do. It's supposed to go to the top. Oops. Do a quick move to the top, and we're just going to make sure that we are lined up reasonably evenly throughout our snowman. Move our head that way and that way slightly. That's probably close enough. It is a snowman, it's not going to be exact. Now, don't worry about shading or anything at the moment. Let's just be happy we have our 3 balls. I'm going to make this head slightly bigger because I'm feeling that it's not quite big enough for our snowman's head. So let's make that one bigger. And we'll make that one a little bit bigger as well. Yeah, there we go. That's a bit better. Okay, so we have our 3 spheres for our snowman. We need a top hat. Top hat. We're going to grab a cylinder, put the cylinder out, and let's just make it quite tall because it is a top hat. We can resize this, don't forget, at any point for that. And I'm just going to whack some extra height segments in. So that's going to give us a little bit more options when we come to here and we get our modify list and we do edit poly. Select the polygon option, click on the first one, shift and click to get them all the way around without selecting the base. And we're going to do it down to here and we're going to find our extrude option. And hopefully we're going to extrude. Oh, okay, it's extruding it up and down. Not quite what I was hoping for there. But we can't win playing fair. Let's get our resize, and we're just going to uniformly scale it out instead. So there is our top hat with the brim. Going back up, going to get the full element selection. Click on the full element selection. I'm just going to scale this down so it's going to fit on his head. So it's going to look a bit daft otherwise. And then, same thing as usual. Going to lift it up, looking on our little windows, which are down the side, or might be 1, 2, and then 1 across the top, depending on how you've set up your screen. Move it into position, and just stick it on his head. There we go, that's not looking too bad there. And just click on the cylinder, click yes, and that will let us select off it. Moving the bottom back underneath him very slightly. There we go. So there's a top hat, nice and simple. Now we're going to need some more spheres, but in this case I'm intentionally going to make it bigger to start with, so that I can see what I'm doing. But for these spheres, we're going to go to polygon modeling, convert to poly, and we're going to go to freeform, and we're going to paint noise into this, because snowmen have coal for eyes, usually. Well, they probably don't anymore, because coal's not that well found, but traditionally they had coal for eyes. So all we're going to do is we're going to paint over this with noise, and just make it a little bit, a little bit spiky, a little bit rough, Let's make sure you do it all the way around. You don't have to go mad with it, but just create some peaks and some troughs and whatnot on it. Don't forget to do the bottom. Everyone always forgets the underneath, but you're going to want to do all of it. So we've got that. Now what we're going to do is going to smooth it off slightly. Mesh smooth it a couple of times. And that gives us that slightly spiky look that we've got going on there. And just go back in there, turn the noise off so that we can click off it and resize it. Now obviously that's a bit big for going onto our snowman. So we're going to want to shrink it down. So just click and drag to make it smaller. And same as we've done before, let's move it into position. So we can see from here it's just about in line with our snowman. But it's a little on the big side still. That's a very, very, very big eye. So I'm just going to make this smaller a bit more. A bit smaller again. There we go. So there is one eye ready to be coloured. Now I'm going to clone it. This time I'm going to do it as an instance instead of a copy. Move that across. Just move it in so that it's sitting into the snow. And I'm actually just going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep cloning these, and this will be one button on the front of our snowman. Let's just check where these are so they're not sticking out too much. And the second button, which can go, oops, go around about there. Make sure you aim for the yellow bit. We'll just do a third button going down onto the bottom of our snowman here. I have to come forward quite a bit so we can see it. And there we go, he's got eyes, he's got buttons, he's missing a nose and some arms. And potentially a scarf, if we're feeling very festive and we want to give him a scarf. So let's start off, let's give him a nose. Now I'm going to use a cone for the nose. So with a cone, set your base, set your height, click, and then set it to go into a point. So that's quite a chunky carrot going on there. We can always change that if we don't want it to be quite so chunky. We get this middle bit between the X and the Y, that will just narrow the base when we work out which direction it needs to move in. Grab the rotate tool, I want to rotate it so that it's on its side, and moving it up and into place on our snowman. And let's just turn it around, have a look from the top. Might want to rotate it very slightly round this way so that it's sticking straight out. Right, starting to look a lot like a snowman now. What else do we need? We need some arms. So for the arms, cylinders will probably work. You want some very narrow, thin cylinders. For the arms, that's going to be way too big, but it's a good start. And we can shrink it down once we've got it in place. Move that to there. Is then we can move back on that line, and we want to bring it up so it's coming out of the right place. And we'll just do our scale so that it's twig shaped-ish. I'm going to clone it, and I'm going to rotate the cloned version. And we'll just grab the move tool, move it over slightly, move it up a little bit. Right, so we've got two arms sticking out. And go on, let's give him a scarf. Let's use a tube for the scarf. So set the first bit, which is your main diameter. You've then got your inside diameter, and you've then got the height. Let's have the height there. Now this might take some playing with, getting it into position and getting it to be the right size for our snowman's neck, especially given that when we do that bit we can't actually see it anymore because it's inside the snowman. Move you up. Oh, there we go, a bit too far that way. Let's just move it in this way. Slightly. Almost there. There we go. There's the start of the scarf. What else do we need for a scarf? Let's put a sphere in. We need a nice big knot tied in our scarf. Let's just bring that up. Move it across, and let's bring it forward so we can find it. It's a little on the large side there. Let's just make this a little bit smaller. Move it down. So there's our scarf. It's got a knot, and just use some thin boxes just to give us the end of the scarf. And what we can do is we can just go to our modifier list, add a bend after we've added some more length and width segments so that it has something to bend around, and some height segments. Let's just split that up a bit. Add a bend, just find the right bend for what you need. Might take a little bit of playing with, but I need that one. Rotate it a bit so we can get it to start putting it into position. Move this across. You know it's going to need to come up. And move it in until it meets the scarf. And we'll just play around a bit, putting it in position. Might want to rotate it and that way a little bit. What you do want to make sure of when you've got it to the size and angle that you want is that it sits inside the rest of your scarf. So it doesn't look like it's just randomly coming out of the middle of nowhere. Get the rotate again. Let's do a little bit more rotation that way. So there's one bit. Easy way, going to clone it. Rotate the cloned one so it's going in the opposite direction so we can still see our pole. Grab the move tool and move that over to here so it's coming out of there. Right, so that gives us a box. So grab this here coal. At the moment, oh I know why. I need to rotate this around this way a bit so that it's actually sitting more rather than sticking out on a bit of a strange angle. There we go. Snowman. We need to add materials to our snowman now. So you will need to find materials. I've already downloaded materials for speed. Let's just move our snowman across a little bit. Right, let's see what we have in our materials editor. Now because I haven't closed the program down since doing the blobfish tutorial, I'm doing both of these at once, I already have some materials up. But I'm going to create new materials. So I'm going to find the diffuse colour and I'm going to set that to black. Now I don't want this particularly shiny, so I'm going to turn the glossiness down as well as the reflectivity, which for you guys is the specular. Maybe not quite that much down, we do want a little bit of shine. And I'm going to apply that to my top hat and I'm going to apply it to my eyes. And what you'll notice is where I cloned it as an instance instead of a copy, it has now applied that texture to all of the pieces of coal that I've put into the snowman. So that's those bits done. Our carrot is orange, So you could find a carrot texture to put on this, or you can just change it so that it's a nice orange carroty colour. Is that orangey carroty colour? That does, of course, mean that you have to be aware of what colour carrots are if you don't find the texture. And click OK on that. Don't really want too shiny a carrot, so let's just turn the glossiness down. A bit dark, I think. Make it a bit brighter. Try that. And drag that, and we're going to drop that onto our cone for its nose. Twigs of brown. It's going to almost look like the carrot. Now, to find a brown on a computer, you are going to want to be quite low down on this chart over here and in towards the red. So you're looking for something that's not got a lot of vibrant colour in it. So about there-ish. Click OK on that. Twigs aren't very shiny, so let's take the glossiness off it. And I'm going to apply that onto the arms. Again, I did the arms as an instance, so it's put it onto both of them already. And then we've got two textures to add next to our snowman. We've got to texture the snow for his body, and we're going to add a texture to the scarf. So let's start off with the snow. Where it's got your diffuse colour, set the colour to white, because that's always good practice anyway. And then click on the little square beside the colour. So yours will say diffuse alongside the colour here. It will give you the box with the colour in. It will give you a square, which you can then click. And in theory, when you click your square, you should get something that comes up looking like this. You're going to want the bitmap, which will take you into some already preset images that are in there, or it might be blank for the educational copy. But you're going to want to go to where you have put your pictures. So I've stored mine in the textures, and I want a snow texture on this. You will need to click show the material in the viewport. Right, I'm going to click and drag this, and I'm going to apply it to my sphere. Now, that's not quite right. So what we're going to do is we're just going to turn the size up, and if you notice, I am getting changes on this picture. So if I zoomed right in, I would see small amounts of that snow. Let's try this at about 59. So you can just type in it, and that gives us a snow texture going on there. It's a bit shiny for snow at the moment. So clicking the drop down, going back to where it says 17 default, and all we're going to do is we are going to take our glossiness all the way down. That looks a bit better. If you find you want to get back into the texture to edit it, it will now say an M on it. You just click the M, and that will take you back in. I'm just going to have a little bit more of a play on this, see what we can get. There we go, that looks better. And I'm going to apply this to the three main spheres now. Yay! Okay, last texture for our scarf. Going into the material editor and map browser, into the bitmap, I've got my texture here. Go there, going to do that, and then I'm just going to apply this onto all of my bits of scarf. So I can see what it looks like on all of it. At the moment the pattern's a bit small, so same as what I did with the snow pattern, I'm just going to turn this up until we can see it. And there we have it, a snowman wearing a scarf. One last thing that we're going to do is you're going to create a plane. Now planes go flat, and this plane you just want to make it as big as you can make it to start with, and then you're going to go into your resize and you're going to make it even bigger. So massive plane. Let's stretch it out that way a bit, and we'll stretch it back out that way a little bit, so that we can sit our snowman on it and not see any of the edges when we're working. Grab my little move tool here and zoom in on him. Zoom in on him a little bit, move him to there. And then on this plane, we're going to get our snow material. We're just going to go and drag and drop the snow material. So we now have a snowman sitting in a snowy field. And I want him that way around. Let's just move him over here a bit. Spin him around a bit more. Spin him across a bit more. There we go. Now, I'm going to be really cheeky and I'm going to add a light into this. So I'm going to add a target light. Pop-up boxes come up. Click yes. You're going to want to zoom out because you're going to want to place your light and click and drag to target where your light is going to go. So this will affect how your snowman looks. I'm going to move this in that way. Move it over here. We don't really want the light shining across the snowfield. That would be a bit bizarre. And I'm just going to move it right the way in and across. Let's do that. Let's zoom back in on our snowman. And we'll see what that looks like when we render. It's taken a little while longer to render because I've added this additional light in. But there is our snowman sitting in a snowy field. He's even casting a shadow. So of course, obviously once you've rendered it, save the image. I'm going to save the image in here as snowman. Don't forget to set your format. So it's PNG, save. So that's that saved as a rendered view. We're just going to save this as the Max. Now I'm saving this in my 3ds Max folder. You will want to go to your library and save it in your library. So actually just for this one, I'm going to save it in my 3D models as a snowman. And that's everything saved. And as per usual, upload onto Moodle and only upload the rendered PNG or JPEG image.